you all. You have no idea what it's like, well, maybe most of you do, to have just an idea in your mind and then to see it just blossom by God's grace and His favor. And that's what this moment feels like for me, for year 2 of the Phenomenal Book Series. So I'm just very, very grateful. I am so excited about this moment. These 12 ladies have worked so hard. I have been their book coach, and I have been putting my foot down with these ladies to make sure we got here. No, they were very, very much on top of their stuff, and I'm just, to see them here today in their blue and white to represent their cover, that one of them, Miss Renee, took a picture of the cover, and she created it, and it's just been, she created the cover from a picture, and just the whole thing coming together the way it did was really God's grace and His favor, let me tell you that. And also, I just want to talk about the power of sharing your story. By show of hands, who just considers, I should write a book one day? Anybody? See? Yes. You should all write that book. And it kind of reminds me of folding clothes. It's 2 types of people in the world. It's the people that fold clothes and go put the clothes up. Right. And any of those people in the room? Yeah. Halfway. Okay. Any of the people like me? Wash clothes, put them to the side. I'm going to get back to it. Raise your hand if you sometimes like that. And let me tell you about that. So when you don't fold clothes and there's other people in the house, what? They need that stuff, right? They go looking for it. And so with sharing your story and your testimony, it's kind of like that. It's your life experience can be somebody's tool, somebody's navigation system to get to where they want to go. They're looking for your story. So just like with my daughter, she's like, Mom, where are my socks? Now we both got to go take time out of our day to go find these socks that aren't together. And socks, they do something magical. They go into different dimensions or something. I don't know. Socks are crazy. But that is exactly what it's like when you don't take the time to share your story. Somebody's looking for your experience because they're going through it or something very close to it. So I want to encourage anyone that's considering to write a story to go ahead and share that story. Because some people might not pick up the Bible, but they might pick up your book. Mm-hmm. Somebody might want to interview on a podcast, so they might listen to that podcast. Somebody might listen to a blog post from a story that you wrote. So just be mindful that you really should share the story behind God's glory. All right? Yes. All right? Okay. So we're going to get this program started. I really do thank y'all for y'all patience, and we're going to jump right into it. So the next thing on the agenda, which my whole thing just went away. Okay, here it is. So I'm going to introduce Jessica Lumpkin. Jessica Lumpkin, she participated in the very first Phenomenal book. And we do have a couple of phenomenal faith authors here. So just raise your hand in the crowd. Yes. So yes, Jessica was also a part of Phenomenal Faith. And Jessica, I've known Jessica from our FAMU days. We attended graduate schools together. And she's a nationally circulated author. She's a marketing director. She's a professor at FAMU now. I said, look at how God would make things. We were in a class together. Look at you. And she has all type of friends. She works with Big Crump as well. So she is a powerhouse. I'm so excited that my friend traveled from Tallahassee to be a part of this. So without further ado, we're going to have the moderator, Jessica, come on stage, and the ladies will take the stage for a panel discussion. At the very end, we'll take a couple of questions from the audience. All right, that sounds good? Sounds good. Y'all all right? Yeah. All right.
So while the ladies are getting seated, I just want to say what an honor it is to be here before y'all. As Tony said, I was an author in Phenomenal Faith, so I certainly understand going through that 12-week experience. You have to face what you've gone through. That can be a daunting task, not just the writing part. So I look forward to having this discussion with the ladies. Got your microphones? about favor. Many people believe they have to somehow earn the favor of God. I've kind of been thinking about that a bit. In Ephesians 2:8, it tells us, "For by grace you have been saved through faith, and that not of yourselves, it is the gift of God." Paul wrote that letter in Ephesians in an attempt to persuade the Ephesians to put their faith in the hands of God. So my question to you all is, how do you personally interpret the concept of God's favor as discussed in Ephesians 2:8? And what does favor mean to you? Whoever wants to get started.
Hello. For me, favor is not earned. It's not something I deserve, but it's something that God looked beyond my faults and He's applied something that I needed. And to me, that's favor. It's almost like grace to the second power. So that's how I see favor.
And I'll just add too that the word tells us that we're fearfully and wonderfully made, and God loves us so, so much. And I didn't always know that, but I know that now. And as has been said before, we don't have to earn it. God loves us so much that He withholds nothing good from those that He loves, and that's what it means to me.
Favor means favor means unconditional, unbiased, and worthy.
Just giving you an opportunity.
Favor to me is God using somebody else's ability, somebody else's influence to do something for me that I can't do for myself.
So as you share your different expressions of what favor means to you, we're going to keep it in the Word today because we're talking about the favor of God. So in Romans 5:2, Paul shares that we have access by faith into this grace, unmerited favor, in which we stand. So to gain access to and increase in God's unmerited favor, the key that we need is to have faith. Faith to believe that we are indeed highly favored by God. In your chapters, you each discuss favor in your lives. Could you share some practical ways that individuals can access favor in their own lives?
I'll just say surrender. In my life, I was one who always had a plan A, B, and C and needed to be in control. But when I learned to surrender to God, then that's when His favor started to flow in my life.
Yes, definitely. It's relying totally on God, leaning on Him no matter what the situation is and what things may look like, but leaning and believing in Him and putting all your trust and faith in Him because He is our ultimate resource.
Favor to me is when you just look to God for all the answers that you don't have. And in my chapter, He was the answer to all my problems.
I believe that favor is, or grace is unmerited favor. It's not something that you have to earn. By nature, we're all created as God's beloved children, and that means that we're incapable of failure. Everything that we go through life is a learning opportunity, and when you step out on faith, you are fully surrendering, as one of my co-authors said, and just calling God out on the promises that were laid out to you as someone who is sacred and divine.
That's right.
That's good.
Can y'all hear me? Okay. What I found is that for me, favor was attached to the assignment that God had on my life. And as I was more obedient, the doors just opened up. And because I was falling in alignment with what He wanted, favor was bestowed upon me because where other people were being told no, I was being told yes because I was falling in line with obedience.
I'll add to that, the word that came to mind for me too was alignment, particularly the question was around like having access
And for me, the first thing I thought of was alignment and like, what do I do to get in alignment? And so, I thought mostly about like, what is my devotion and praise and worship and commitment to fellowship around being in alignment so that I'm not distracted by things that are happening outside, that I can actually be still and present enough to hear from God what it is or how I should be moving towards whatever that direction is so that I can surrender to God's perfect will.
I was.
This one's different from all the rest. Here they go. Let's see. I'm gonna do this one.
We're gonna do this right here. Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
All right. So I think with favor, literally piggybacking off of what all of these beautiful women have said, I think for me, my grandmother always says, favor ain't fair, and it's not. And God will choose you just because He wants to show something in you, through you, for everybody else to see. Like, I did this, look what God did for me, and it's not because of who I am, but it's because of who God is. And I think for me, it was just trusting, stepping out and trusting. Sometimes I thought that, I wanted to do A, but in reality, God wanted me to do C. And so what I needed to do was let go of my own thought of what it was supposed to look like, what it was supposed to smell like, feel like, taste like, and just let that go and just really trust. And sure enough, on the other end was favor the whole time.
You all have been talking about how to access favor, and one of you lovely ladies referenced grace and favor. And I know I've been told before that grace is His favor. I'm kind of compelled to believe that they're related, but there is a difference. For example, favor will put you in a place, but grace will keep you there. So can you share an example from your own life where you experienced God's favor or grace, even when you felt you didn't deserve it?
I'll just share, as one of the portions of my chapter, I shared an experience from when I was a young woman, early in my 20s, exploring, feeling myself, trying to be an adult. And I was raised in church as a Christian. My parents were this church, and I had gotten away from that. And was doing my own thing, and I got involved with someone I shouldn't have gotten involved with. And even in that, by the time I was ready to get out of it, I just sought God, and He brought me out. And I'm just so grateful that even though I wasn't where I was supposed to be or doing what I was supposed to do, God was still there. So that's one experience that I shared in my chapter.
So I like this question because once I finished writing my chapter, I read it through and I was like, wait a minute, I don't think I answered the question. We were talking about phenomenal favor, and the theme throughout my book was about grace. And that's where, when you say that they're synonymous, I feel the same way, because my favor was the grace that was simply come. Through all of the issues I went through, the trials and tribulations, you don't always get it right. And so sometimes we expect perfection from us, and we know God is not expecting that. So just having the grace to just fail, to fumble, to not get it right, to repeat the same mistake, to go 10 steps forward and fall 5 back, and Him being there and just being gentle to you. So that was the favor that I found, that He gave me that grace to say, I got you. Yeah.
Yes, and piggybacking from what you said there, my story incident happened over 30 some odd years ago now, and I've always said I'm going to write a book, I'm going to tell, and people knew of it, but not the deep details of it. And so when I began to write and really get focused in writing this, it did bring up a lot of emotions that I had emotions and memories that I had suppressed with all of this. So the journey that we went through in writing this book, the 12-week process, the structure, even having a psychologist available to support us through this, it was a phenomenal experience in doing this to help us through getting this out. And I feel like I've birthed another child after getting through this, but it was great.
Hello. I think for me, this chapter and writing this and telling my story stays in my head all the time. There's things I live with every single day. I wanted those visions and those memories to be gone. But what was hard for me and what I learned through this is that I was still trying to protect others and I would still diminish who I was so that they could still look good to everyone else. No one ever knowing my pain. So for me, it was really, birthing the child was good. And it was natural and it was beautiful, but telling my story, at least parts of it, there was some stuff I just wouldn't dare share. Once again, still learning how to succumb to not protecting, to truly be free. So that's what it was for me.
So, when I thought about what I wanted to write, it was very specific. And what I've come to the realization is that I was chosen. We were chosen. And through your own insecurities, through your own trauma, when you listen to that inner voice, which is God, He is guiding you to the solution. He is teaching you. He's teaching it, right? And so just thinking about my chapter and all that I've written about, it just reminds me that God's favor is real, and ensuring that I'm providing, that I have grace on myself, that I'm not being hard on myself. And it doesn't matter what experience you have, it doesn't matter what you don't know, God will provide the tools that you need to succeed.
Those are really good, y'all. I want to take a moment because we hopped right into it and y'all did not get to introduce yourselves. So before we go further with another question, can we just start at the far left and just go around, say your name and say your chapter, please. Starting with Raquel.
Hey everyone, what's up? No. Make some noise. No, I'm joking. But my name is Raquel Thomas. I'm the author of Rockstar Lifestyle, I Will Make It. It's chapter 1.
Hello everyone, I'm Carmen Aerise. I am chapter 5 of Phenomenal Favor, The Rose That Grew from Georgia Clay, a tale of letting go and rediscovery.
Hello everyone, I am Cassandra Hayward-Hines. I am the author of chapter 2, Living My Second Lease on Life.
Hey y'all, I'm Ashia Parks-Coggins. I am chapter 11, ooh, to my sorors, Anchored, Becoming Through Life Storms.
Hello everyone, my name is Renee Jenkins. My chapter is chapter 4, God Working Behind the Scenes.
Hi everyone, my name is Alfaye Miller and I am chapter 3, Dare to Keep Moving.
Hey everybody, hey y'all. I'm Peaches Blue and my chapter is number 7. 7 is completed, I'm done. And the title of my chapter is, it's completed, is Bruised But Blessed.
Hi everyone, I'm Cheryl Mutcherson. I'm chapter 10, Bent But Not Broken.
Hello, I'm Amiyra King. I have the very last chapter of the book, and my chapter is titled I Listened.
Hello, my name is Ashley Newton. I have chapter 8, and my title is Count It All Joy. Hey y'all, I'm Jasmine Byrd-Whiting, and the title of my chapter, which is chapter 6, is Favor Throughout.
So our time is cutting short, so I'm going to hop into 2 more questions. Let's just paraphrase this. Jesus healed a man that was blind, okay? The verse, John 9:3, it said that neither this man nor his parents sinned, said Jesus, but this happened so that the works of God might be displayed in him. I bring that up because in this verse it suggests that the works of God are made manifest through the adversity of men. If there were no adversity, his presence and strength could not be made known. So my question, when we get into the meat and potatoes of you all's chapter, is whether bad things happening to good people could be a form of God's favor. Can you expand on the possibility of that idea and provide some insights from your chapter?
I'll go first on that if you don't mind. For me, it was at the time that I thought that I would give up on life. But I had a little boy that depended on me. And looking at that baby, knowing that I chose to give him birth, I chose him, I planned him, he was not an accident. And me wanting to give up and walk away from him meant, girl, get up. But through all of that, it meant God reached down, pulled me up, take these pills out my hand, and let me live. And that's where God showed up. But through it all, prayer got me through. My parents taught me how to pray. I was gone and married at 17. So I really had to hold on to prayer. But at that particular time, it was as if all that was gone. But God can reach down to the lowest of lows and bring you up. And that's what it did for me.
And I'll just share when you talk about bad things happening to good people. One of the first stories I share in my story is about a time when I was 13 years old. And I was a good girl. I made good grades. I did everything everybody told me to do. I tried not to let anybody down, but still bad things happened. And again, as a 13-year-old being carried to church, I questioned God even then. It's like, why? And it wasn't until much later till I realized that it's for a purpose, that I was chosen to endure those things even from that time through now, so that God might get the glory, so that I might share my story so others might have hope.
Yes.
Yes, and bad things happening to good people, I would say, I think it's definitely, those things happen for us to have the faith, lean in, get through, and then be a testament of what God has done for us in our lives. And with my story, you'll see in that what happened to me, according to man, I should not be alive. I should not have survived and been alive. But of course, God did have a different plan. So I'm here in living flesh to be able to tell my story and show the evidence and the power of what God can do.
Okay, I'm sorry, go ahead, Jess.
Just really quickly, bad things happening to good people. First of all, what makes us so good? Who said we were so good? Right? I think we have to realize that everybody is going through a thing. Everybody's going through something. And I'm such an emotional crybaby. I can cry at the drop of a dime, and just hearing everybody's story and sharing my own, it's just such an emotional, beautiful thing. But I say all that to say, sometimes what looks like a bad thing is just God putting you where you were supposed to be the whole time. But you making your own decisions, being, a little raggedy and not knowing, you're doing this over here. And God's like, you messing up over there. I wanted you over here. So go ahead, mess up, but I got you. That is the favor and the grace that I have over your life. This favor is going to put you where I needed you to be this entire time. So what looks like something bad isn't always necessarily, it looks bad during that time, in that moment, but truly that bad thing was to get you to this good place, was to get you to that better place that God always had planned for you. So what looks bad is really something beautiful in the end.
Answers were so good. Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you. So I think, again, like to Jasmine's point, good and bad are all subjective, and they're rooted in our messed up perspective as flawed human beings. But God doesn't see us as flawed. I see God as the highest expression of energy, just the best vibration. And if we are divine and God's beloved children, then that vibration is sprinkled within us. And grace allows us to accept that God has already qualified us. We don't have to hold on to these negative perspectives regarding what we lived through. We can release the burdens of the past and move forward knowing that everything is really going to be okay. That can sound flippant or unserious, but it's true. And God is asking us to just surrender and believe that everything is done in perfect will.
Okay, I did want to ask. So, the idea of transforming pain into power and helping others is inspiring. Can you all give us one nugget of post-traumatic wisdom that we can take with us to complete our panel discussion?
Okay, so I want to share two things. First, have the courage to love yourself enough to not participate in your own self-destruction. That looks like knowing that you deserve to make choices that are in alignment with the highest version of yourself because you know that you are sacred. And secondly, make every day a flex on the old you. There is a version of yourself that is looking at you right now thinking, wow, that's me, I did that. Your younger self is like, yo, look at me now. And so you deserve to relish in joy and know that you can truly rock on. This is your life and it's something great. So make it awesome.
I would piggyback off of what she said. For me, it was a journey about knowing that everything you were searching for rested within the person you're looking at within the mirror. So it's all within you and tapping within yourself to move forward and do what God has called you to do and having confidence in that and using everything that you've gone through to do that, because that is what prepares you to be in the spaces and the rooms that your feet are meant to step into.
God is real and forever faithful.
One of the themes from my chapter is around like worth and my worth being rooted in what God's vision is for who I am and what I should be and what I should do. And it is not connected to what I do for others or what my job is or what people need me. My worth is deeply connected to God and what he believes to be true about me.
My post-traumatic nugget is related to accepting help, knowing that God is there for you, but he also places people in your life to support you, and not everyone's out to get you. You can accept help from your sister, your friend, even a therapist, but help is out there so you don't have to do it alone.
My nugget would be to dare to keep moving, no matter what the situation. When I tell you, no matter what the situation is, just dare to keep moving and not give up.
And for me, he is doing great work in me. And hopefully my blueprint will resonate with my grandbabies and my children to see that if God is doing a great work in me, if he can bring me through, he'll bring you through too. And greater is he that is in me than he that is in the world, because the world would have destroyed me, but God kept me. Amen.
Mine is, man doesn't define you, God, only you and God. You can be bent, but you can never be broken.
Amen. Mine is, God got you. He got you. Have no fear. Trust the process and listen to God.
I think that mine would be that there is joy after this. And whatever your this is, whether it's good, there's always better. If it's bad, it's going to get good. So just keeping in mind that there is joy after this, and through God, we can be our best, and he wants us to be our best, and he wants us to live a joyful and joyous life, and just keep believing in that.
Well, I guess I'm closing us out, which is difficult following these ladies, but I think I would say as a nugget, and it also goes along just with the theme and the title of this book, each one of us has been chosen to be here during this specific time, during this very moment in life. You were supposed to be here right now. And because of that, as long as you remain faithful, irregardless of, my mom always says, irregardless is not a word, Jasmine. So regardless of what the mistakes are, Asia's laughing because she knows my mom, but regardless of what the mistakes are, as long as you remain faithful, when you look back over your life and you get through those mistakes, you will realize that God, you favored me throughout. Again, my chapter name. You have favored me throughout this entire thing. And so I think as long as you remain faithful, grateful, thankful, you're going to make it through this thing.
I did want to ask the audience, all of you that came out today to support all of these authors, is there anyone from the audience that has a question? Okay.
Testing.
My name is Angela Odom, and my question really is, it seems like you may have thought about sharing your story for a while. So my question is, what made you say yes to this opportunity? Well, we were chosen. We were.
I can say for me that I was chosen. I can't tell you that I wanted to do this or know how to do this, but I was chosen to do this, and then once I was chosen, then I realized I could do it.
Okay. For me, I think everything is in God's timing. We set plans and think we are going to do things. Like I said, I thought about writing this many years and even jotted some things down. But it all happens in God's timing. And I feel like this was his plan and timing for me. And the beauty about this also, and I have to share this real quick, I'm a member of Delta Sigma Theta, and one of my sorors connected me with BFF Publishing, the owner of BFF Publishing. She and I had never met, didn't even know she was a soror, but when I met her, we were connected, met her, she shared about what she was doing. I was like, this is my time to do this, let me get in and do this. And little did I know, or what I learned, she's a soror, and she was initiated at my same chapter, Sigma chapter, Clark Atlanta University. She's a few years younger, so I didn't know at the time, but we are Sigma Letter Sigma chapter sorors. So I said, this was all in God's plan. I was able to share my story and support a Black-owned author and a soror in doing that. So it was all in God's time.
you know, people are put into your life for different things. And I did not go to a historically black college. I'm not in a sorority. But from the first conversation that I had with Tony in the car, I think it was 6 o'clock at night, 4 years ago, she's been my sister ever since. And she's been placed in my life for a reason. She has a special calling on her life. And if it wasn't for Tony, my story would never come out. And I'm gonna leave it at that. Thank you.
I decided to participate in the anthology because growing up, my mom would share visions and prophecies over my life, and she was like, "You're gonna be an author." And I was like, okay. I love to write, but so I was like, all right, I would like to do a full-length memoir one day. And I happened to be participating in my church's Bible study where I met Ladriana Johnson. Shout out to Ladriana, who is Tony's cousin. Tony saw me and heard me share a bit of my testimony at Bible study, and through Ladriana reached out to me. And when I spoke to her, I was like, whoa, she's a black woman, she has her own publishing house. Instead of allowing my traumas to swirl around in my mind and cause me to feel despair, I can take this opportunity to release it. And so I was like really excited just to release it, but then I took a step back and I was like, wait, I'm in alignment with my mom's prophecy and vision for my life. So that was a cherry on top.
Similar to you, Raquel, I've always said, and I've told friends and family members, close friends and family members, that I've always wanted to write a memoir. I've journaled since I was 7 till today. And I always said, well, maybe I'll get one of my journals published. But I just put the thought on the shelf. You know, you just get so busy with life that it's just like, oh, you know, maybe one day, maybe I'll do it. And this opportunity, literally, y'all, I told that to God. I told God that that's what I wanted to do. And I tell people, tell God what you want. Put it out there. Let him know what it is that you want him to move on you know, on your behalf. And so my girlfriend, Asia, she just randomly called me one day and said, hey, do you want to be a part of this women's anthology? I was like, what? She had no idea that I ever even wanted to write. She got together with another friend of ours and they had a conversation and our other friend mentioned it to her and here I am. You know, God's grace, God's mercy, and God's timing.
There's 2 things I always wanted to do in life. One was be a writer and a publisher. One was be an educator. And one is more stable than others. And so I pursued education. But to Renee's point earlier, like everything in God's time, because this was the moment where I was supposed to start my writing journey because of how I evolved and how I have healed. And, you know, actually experiencing this process for me was an opportunity for me to lean into the legacy that was put before me, but then also how I've taken that legacy and made that my own in this process. And as I continue to grow as a woman and lean more on, you know, who I've become. And I think that I needed to do that when I had become something different. And so in God's timing, I wanted to do the last book. It wasn't time. I said to God this year, I want to publish. I didn't know how. I didn't know why. And then Tony said she was doing another book. And I thought I had missed that opportunity. But again, in God's timing, this was the time. This was the condition. This was what was supposed to happen.
And I have always written, I journal, and I had no intention of sharing my story with anyone. It was just for me, just for my healing. And I knew about the Phenomenal Faith Project. Tony and I are in a book club together. And again, timing wasn't right at that time. I was still going through some healing, and it was kind of rough at the time. But when Phenomenal Favor came, I was ready. As Tony said, I was one of the first to sign on, and feeling like God was ready for me to share my story so someone else might learn and be blessed by it.
Yes, sir.
Good evening, ladies. Afternoon, ladies. And first and foremost, let me say congratulations to each and every one of you on your accomplishment as well as the series before you. So congratulations to you all. I guess my question is, you all have put yourself out there, even the series before you. And in life, a lot of us, we go through life with people not knowing that we're ever angry with them, or we hold a grudge against them. We'll hold it for a long time and never say a word to them. They can go on and live their life and never know how we actually feel. My question to you is, if by writing this, what do you think, or if there is a place where if someone else or the person that was causing you so much hurt read this, what do you think they'd have to say to you? Would you think they would apologize, or would they, I'm sorry for calling you so much harm, or would they not say anything at all? Because you put yourself out there. I'm just curious, what do you think that person that caused you that great amount of stress, health, and all those other things that go with that, what do you think they might say once they read your chapter?
So for me, and I've said this to someone the other day, writing was the easy part for me. Sharing it is the hard part. It took me a lot to even post that I was a part of it, not because of anything other than my own fear. And it was fear of, well, what happens when people see this? For me, it wasn't about anyone doing anything to me. It was the things that I did to myself. So I can't answer how other people would feel, but there are people in my family who are characters. They may see themselves in a light that they may not be proud of. They may not like how things are portrayed, but it's our story. It's what has made us who we are. And there are these experiences that we have had. Our transparency is going to free someone else. So as they read it, emotions will come from a lot of places for a lot of people. And I think that that's okay. And I think that's something that if we need to wrestle with that when the time comes, then it probably will allow us to have some conversations that should have been had a long time ago. So it's an opportunity any way that you look at it.
And that's one of the things I did struggle with. There's a section of my chapter where I write about my divorce after 25 years and my ex-husband, or I call him my first husband in my book, although I'm still unmarried, but God is able. So I wanted to write in such a way that didn't really throw him under the bus or expose him, but to write to share my experience and how God came through for me, and I think I accomplished that. And yes, he may read it, but I know he'll know it's the truth. He may not know all of what I felt and dealt with it. He may not know that now, but if he reads it, then he may not have known, but he'll know if he reads it, so it'll be all good.
For me, I did not even mention names. And I did that for a reason. One thing, I did not want to give the demons any platform in my life. I was done with them. And I decided that I was going to write on releasing as well. The other one was that I was not trying to make anyone look so horrible, although I had protected a lot of people along the way. But I was not going to give them that platform. They have no space. I would not give some of those spirits. Now, there was some good spirits in there, but it was some spirits that when God took them away and removed them from my mind, from my spirit, from being able to take residence up in my heart and my space, he really healed me. And so I had to heal from that. Now, I hope that if anyone reads it, especially some of the people that know that this may be about them, that they will sit down and say, wow, I never knew. But now that I know, maybe I'll sincerely apologize, or maybe I'll see the strength that she had that she loved me that much, that she would succumb and put everybody in my family think, oh, she's such a strong chick. She got it going on. She loud, always been loud. And so they're like, oh, don't nobody bother her. Nothing breaks her. She is just that tough. But little did they know that I was bruised. I had been broken, but God healed me. So that's why it's not broken but blessed. It's just bruised. So from times when you had those little chicken pox, some people still have a spot from chicken pox. It's just a bruise, but I'm healed from it. I'm blessed. And that's what I wanted anyone to read my story. And maybe some young person, when they see that, they would know, she didn't mention names, but this is me. This is me, and I can do this. If she can do this, I can too. So hopefully that's what they get from it. And those that read their part of it, maybe it'll wake them up.
My chapter, it wasn't specifically about, someone hurting me, but it was really, I wrote the chapter for encouragement. I wrote the chapter of my vulnerability with my childhood, my upbringing, being a wife, coming through a family of trauma, and then turning my life around and how I was able to use all that I've experienced and learn from it and create a whole new dream that I never knew existed. And my story really is focusing on, I would say, the moms out there that are actively going through, what we go through, and wives, and the impacts that your children have on your life, and what can come from that, right? Because they're watching you. And, not to give away my whole chapter, but it's titled, I Listened, because I listened. And because I listened, our lives have changed for the better. And children should see that. They should see their parents thriving. They should see, whatever their circumstances, everything can be better. And if you trust God, if you have faith, if you allow yourself grace, if I can do it, you can do it.
In my chapter, I don't talk a lot about my past as much as I did my adult life. And I spoke with Tony prior to doing my chapter, and I told her, I said, girl, I have an entirely different story inside of me. I said, but that story ain't ready yet. And so with this one, and that's probably the story where people will kind of feel a certain type of way. And I'm kind of waiting on that one. Because again, you don't want to put someone in a bad light, but you also want to tell your story, because your story is powerful. And you never know who your own story is going to touch. And so with this one, I think I touched upon certain things where it was like, you get the gist, but I'm not going to go deeper. So I touched upon a few things. I think it's really just having a respect for yourself and really having a respect for that person. But at the end of the day, that other person is not about them. It's about you. It's about you. It's about your story. It's about how those things made you feel and how you came out on the other side, or what you learned from it, or whatever the case may be. But it's really not about them. And I mean, that's easy to say, now, I'm still working through that. So I think with time, with time and with grace for yourself, you're able to really kind of come out of that shell and tell your story.
That's right. Let's go ahead and give our authors a hand. At this point, we are going to go ahead and prepare to give their speeches and tell you more about their individual chapters.
Y'all ready for the next portion of the Alright, so at this point, we're gonna hear from each author. They're just gonna quickly give a 1-2 minute speech about anything related to their book. So they may talk about their writing process, they may talk about contents of their chapter. Whatever it is, we just want to keep the energy high. So we're going to do like they do at the Apollo. We're going to clap them on, and we're going to clap them off, okay? And everybody gets excited. That sounds good? All right, good. So right now, coming to the stage, our very first person, our very first award-winning, best-selling author. Did we mention that? We didn't. We need to clap it up together. Is an award-winning Amazon best-selling author. All right? So we have Miss Raquel Thomas.
Hi everyone. So my chapter is titled Rockstar Lifestyle. I will make it. You might be familiar with that little Gucci Mane lyric if you're a real hip hop head. But it's really an ode to what I see my life as. I talk about my childhood and I break it down through the different roads that I lived on as tour stops throughout my life's journey. God has been my tour manager of sorts. Sometimes I was like, ooh, got a heavy hand. But no, it's really just my perspective and how it shifted. Even in the midst of turmoil, God was there for me. And also, I believe that now it's my responsibility to continue to rock on, to know that the things that I went through are not the sum of my identity. I am not my pain. And so through my story, I hope that you're able to maybe see yourself or see someone you know. And I hope that it allows you to treat yourself with kindness and move forward knowing that you are truly amazing. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. That was a wonderful job. Did y'all learn a little something new? You did? That's great. That's great. So between each author, they have to get mic'd up. So it's going to be a brief intermission of sorts, and you'll have me. I can do a little comedy show in between. Let me see. I'll write stories. I don't really tell jokes. Guest turn.
I had a question. So my name is Steve Turner, and I wanted to get your perspective on the process. Like, what is it like for you? Like, you can sum it up.
Okay, sure. That's a good question. All right, so in major plug, we're coming out with Phenomenal Men of Faith. They're going to start in 2 weeks. 12 men for the first time. We have a couple of the authors here, Stephen Chern, Eric Jeffries. They're going to be participating. Chern is going to be the host. But really quickly, because I think she's ready, the 12-week process is me being your book coach for 12 weeks. We meet via Zoom for 1 hour, and I teach you how to write and how to curate your story. Riel and I, we will meet with you via Zoom, and you get to, before you even start writing, you can pick up your pen, open up your laptop, you just record your story. So you'll record it for about 15-20 minutes. Riel and I will watch it, and then we will help you develop your story. And then from there, over the course of 12 weeks, we just tell you, okay, you have pages 1 through 3 that need to be done. We teach you something else. Pages 3 through 5 need to be done. We teach you something else, and so on and so forth. That's pretty much it. And then you find yourself an Amazon best-selling author, an award-winning author, and then you're on a stage like this. Easy breezy. All right. So next up, we have Cassandra Hayward-Hines.
All right, hello again. I'm Cassandra Hayward-Hines, and my chapter is chapter 2 in the book entitled Second Lease on Life. And I thought of this title because, as I mentioned earlier, after my accident, according to medical experts, I should have been dead and gone. Long story short, my story takes you on my journey of my incident that happened on June 30th, 1989. I jumped from the 6th floor of a burning building, downtown Buckhead area of Atlanta. From that fall, I suffered multiple injuries. You all know the storybook rhyme, Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. Well, I was Humpty Dumpty. I had a great fall. I had to be put back together again, literally. So my story shares with you my journey of that actual incident, the journey I went through of learning to walk again at the age of 21, and the power of prayer, the power of God, and the power of positive thinking that really helped me to get back to where I am today, to be able to share my story. And that's why I say that I'm truly a testament of what God can do. He is real. As I said, I'm here by faith, leaning on His word and what He could do for me. And I beat all the odds, and you'll read in my story all the odds that were against me, wherein I may never walk again, may never have children, all sorts of things. I defeated all of those odds. And I have two beautiful miracle babies, and they are here, blessing and support. So I'm truly a walking and living testament of what God can do. So thank you for sharing your time, and I hope that our stories can bless you in some type of way. So thank you.
Great job, great job. Okay, we only got 10 more to go. Okay, y'all still with me?
Yeah.
That's good. So I do want to make an announcement that DFF Publishing House has 2 book launches today. My daughter is launching her 2 journals today at 3:30 right here in a workshop room to the left when you walk out. So if you have any little ones, send them a text message and say, bring them on out. Her 2 journals are We Should All Be Princesses for girls, and We Should All Be Young Kings for little boys. And they are filled with affirmations and quotes. They're going to have a crown making workshop. My daughter's 11. These are her first 2 journals, but she's been published since she was 7. All right, so I think we're ready for the next. Ready? Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Mrs. Alfaye Miller. Sorry.
Hi everyone, my name is Alfaye Miller, and I am chapter 3, and it is Dare to Move On. And so just to sum up my chapter, there was some events that took place in my life over a course of 7 years. I got diagnosed with cancer, and it was a rare form of cancer, but it was very dangerous. I had been walking around with cancer for 7 years and did not know it. When I finally did have the surgery, my tumor was the size of a softball. And I did not know that. In the course of that, I met some amazing nurses that helped me to heal. So while I was going through that and I healed, and it was a dark time for me, 5 years later, I saw myself going through a divorce after 21 years of marriage. And I didn't even know how I was going to bounce back from that. And my question to God was, why me? Why me, God? And His answer to me was, why not you? And so when I thought that I could I'm like, okay, that's it, I'm done. You know, I can heal this from the cancer, and I can get over the marriage. And then the Lord blessed me with a grandson. And a month later, my one and only sibling died. And all those things happened over the course of 7 years. And that's why my chapter is called Dare to Keep Moving.
Right, thank you. So we have a better system. I don't have to try to come up with something to say every time. So give it up for Miss Renee Jenkins.
Thank you, Tony. In my chapter, chapter 4, I take the reader on a journey from a time when I was 13 years old up to some recent experiences and how God showed up for me during those times. And the title of my chapter is God Working Behind the Scenes, because as I began to write and think about my chapter, I thought about a theatrical production or play, and how as the play and the action is proceeding on stage and people are watching, there's all this activity behind the scenes. There's workers and there's activity and things that we don't see and don't know. And then by the time the next scene plays out, it's more than we could have anticipated or expected, sometimes even greater. And that's how God has showed up in my life. He's always been there working behind the scenes, even in those times when I lost hope, I was fearful, I was out there messing up and being rejected and having setbacks. God always showed up. For example, I talk about in one of the chapters how God showed up as a sound engineer, helping me to hear words and encouragement from His Word versus the hurtful, negative things people may have been saying about me or to me, or that were even in my own head. And then I talk about also how God worked as a casting director, moving people in and out of my life, some unexpectedly, some I didn't want to go. But God still showed up, showed His favor in those circumstances. So I believe that if you read my chapter, if you've been through some of the things I've been through, or might go through some of the things in the future, that you'll be encouraged, you'll be blessed, and you'll have hope.
Great job. All right. Next coming to the stage is Carmen Aerise.
Hello. So my name is Carmen Aerise. The title of my chapter is The Rose That Grew from Georgia Clay, a tale of letting go and rediscovery. One of my favorite lines in my chapter is, sometimes the hardest soul tie to break is the one with your former self. So for me, it was about shedding all the hurt, the pain, everything that was no longer serving me, so that I could take an opportunity like this to step outside my comfort zone and showcase my talents and share my story. So I walk you through my journey of some very vulnerable moments, but using all of those moments collectively to just be who I am and move forward to what God has called me to do. Chapter 5.
Phenomenal. Next we have, that wasn't even a real joke. Next we have, now I gotta remember. Okay, next we have Jasmine Byrd-Whiting.
Thank you, Tony. I thought we were going to have the podium out here, so I had something to stand with. Hey, y'all. So I am chapter 6, favored throughout. And just to give you a little bit of background, this was not the story that I was going to tell originally. Throughout the process of this book, one of the steps that we had to take was speaking to Tony and our editor, Riel, separately and talking to them about what our chapter was going to be. I completely gave them an entirely different story from what I ended up doing. I wanted to write about my time during COVID and the things that I went through with that because I got very sick, ended up being in the hospital during COVID. But as I began to sit down and write that story, something kept saying, and it was God kept saying, I need you to write this, I need you to write this, I need you to write this. And I kept trying to write the other story, but I ended up with this story. And so this story that I write about in chapter 6 is more of a coming up in age, becoming an adult, really. And it's about my years, like right after Hampton University, and just, how I thought I was grown and doing one thing, and I thought I had it pretty much going on, but things happen that show you something different. And so with that, coming of age, in the chapter I also talk about losing my job, and losing my job as an unmarried woman with a child. Me and my now husband, we were together, but women, you know how it is. When you're unmarried, you have a child, you lose your job, you sort of lose your sense of identity. And I talk about that whole time. But in that, throughout, what I'm hoping that everybody gets out of this is, even though you think things are supposed to go one way, when there's a curveball that's thrown at you, just ride that wave out. Just ride that wave out and trust God in the process. Because there's always, as I told you all earlier, there's always something on the back end that He has for you that is greater. And so you'll find at the end of my chapter that, losing the job. A few other trifling things happen throughout the book. You gotta buy the book, you gotta read the book, you gotta see what happens. But things happen, and throughout all those things, God came in and He put me right where I needed to be the whole time. So I just want to thank everybody for coming out and supporting us today. Y'all's love and support is everything, so thank you.
All right, next up we have my aunt Peaches Blue. Thank you all so much for being here. I have to say, for me, a lot of days starts out with, Lord, I stretch my hands to thee. No other help I know. If thou withdraw thyself from me, dear God, where shall I go? In this chapter, I hope is bruised but blessed. I really hope it resonates with someone knowing that you see more of God and less of land. Less of Peaches, less of Nikki, people that I didn't name, but you'll see less of them and you'll just see how God's phenomenal favor covered my life. From being a 17-year-old kid, getting married, leaving home, my parents had to be some praying people. Let me tell you, to move 2 states over, somewhere I had no family, it was just me and my then spouse, so God's favor had to cover me. I'm on a Greyhound bus, 12-hour ride. Who lets their kids go away like that? That's prayer, that's favor. And then to see someone that promised their parents, I'm going to go to college, I promise you. Let me get married. I'm going to college, I'm going to go, I promise. But then to see it actually come into fruition, and I graduate with honors. They're there to see me get my bachelor's, then my master's. Nobody but God. I hate school. If anything y'all need to know about, I hate school. But I hope the ones, my little babies, my grandbabies, that calls my sugar babies, I hope they know that if you persevere, God will keep you. If you keep your faith, God will keep you, and His favor will reign over everything you touch, because someone has prayed for you, someone has gone before the Master on your behalf. I want some young kid, some older woman who think, I can't believe I'm still in this position. I can't believe I'm shrinking so that someone else can look large. You're shrinking, but God has you, and you have to know that His phenomenal favor will keep you. So hopefully whoever reads this, they know that she graduated from college. She went on and had a long career with the federal government. They'll see these things that she picked herself up off that floor by the grace of God, not by her own doing, but how He continued to bless her. Even today, I'm so favored by God's grace and His mercy. Thank you. Thank you, great job. Next up, we have Ashley Newton.
Thank you. I know we're getting tired, but we got a few more to go after me. Ashley said, my name is Ashley Newton. I have chapter 8, Count It All Joy. I had to write my notes down because if I didn't, I'd be babbling and we'd be here all night. And I know we need to get to signing these books. So I just wanted to share. I got a text Wednesday evening after the digital version was released, and it said, wow, your piece in the book is absolutely beautiful, well written, courageous, and inspiring. Thank you for your transparency. It will encourage and help so many, including me. Thank you. I'm so proud. I share that not because of the compliment, but because the book actually being released was harder for me than writing it. But how fitting for our stories to be told in a book about God's favor, because all the things we were scared to bring to light, He already saw. He had a front row seat, and He still chose to show us His favor. So to be here in Atlanta, where my chapter began, feels like such a full circle moment for me, especially with my husband and sharing this moment with my sister friend Asia, who has been in my corner for several versions of me and always saw the best in me, even when there may have just been a speck of it to see. But that's how God works, and I'm thankful to be here. I'm happy to be a part of this wonderful anthology, and I salute each and every one of you ladies for having the courage to change lives. I know it wasn't easy, but we are all better because of this experience, and I look forward to the testimonies that come from it. Thank you.
you, Ashley. Unfortunately, chapter 9, Lateefah Parramore, she is in Miami, Florida, and her plane has to be grounded in Tampa, so she could not make it. So we just want to send, when y'all go on Google and y'all do, or Amazon and Google, leave some reviews. You know, y'all can send in text messages like Ashley wrote, but we also need those reviews. So we're just gonna, we'll send her love that way. All right? That sounds good? All right, so next up we have my other aunt, Cheryl Mutcherson.
Hello everyone, I'm Cheryl Mutcherson and my chapter is chapter 10 and it's Bent But Not Broken, and the reason I chose Bent But Not Broken is because I was bent so many ways but yet not broken. And a bit about my chapter is I start from a 17-year-old getting pregnant, getting married, having another child, having 2 kids, going into a marriage, and just not treated the best. But that's why I called it Bent But Not Broken. But God kept me and I stayed on bending knees and I came out a shining star.
Only 2 more left. Y'all can do this, okay? Next up we have Ashia Parks-Coggins.
Hey y'all, thanks for bearing with us. My chapter is called Anchored, Becoming Through Life Storms. And the premise for this whole piece is my grandmother, who I call Nani. And I set the stage in my chapter around the legacy that she left before me. Y'all heard that saying, you know, you're here off the prayers of your grandmothers and the ancestors. And really, I titled the book Anchored because, you know, the first piece of favor that God ever gave me was Anna Lee Humphrey. And I'm wearing her brooch right now as an acknowledgement of, you know, before I had my faith, before I had what I call my faith, and I use the metaphor of an anchor of it, it was her. And when she passed away, I had to start putting on the hat of, you know, not just relying on her and what she would tell me in her prayers to keep me, but what my faith looked like and how that was going to hold me through all the other parts of my life. And so she gave me the introduction to my anchor, which is my faith. And then I had to do something with that. And so throughout the chapters, I talk about a few of the storms that I went through in my life, particularly the first one, which was her passing away from cancer 2 weeks before I came to Clark, Atlanta, and graduated high school. And I talk about how, you know, her teachings and her affirmations and her faith and her prayers are what kept me until I could evolve into my own intimate relationship with God. And the other storms I talk about, I just reveal what I learned from those things, how I evolved from those things. And each time I did evolve from those storms bigger and better and with a more connected, deeper, intimate relationship with God on my own. So I won't tell you much more, but I will say that I named the chapter Anchored because my faith is my deepest, most important anchor in life in terms of being in alignment with what God has for me, and it will, right? Like if you have God as your anchor, it will weather you despite any storm. So I hope you read the chapter. I hope you love it, and thank you so much for supporting us all. 11.
Wow, good up my line, sister. Mine 11, and now y'all 11 too. All right, so the final author is coming to the stage. Give it up for Amiyra King.
Hey. Okay. My chapter is entitled I Listened. I listened. It focuses on my childhood,
how I was raised, the relationships that I saw in reference to marriage, and then looking at my future, my career, and how did I want my children's childhood to be different. You know, it's pretty interesting because as you get older, as you grow up, when you're a teenager, then you get into adolescence, you kind of flow through life, right? There's social media out now, there's trauma that you may have experienced as a child, there's the internet, there's television, and then there's God. I specifically wanted to focus on all of the insecurities that I experienced that I never knew I had growing up, in my own personal life, in my opinions of myself, within my existing marriage, and then the type of mother that I wanted to be. And ultimately, I decided to listen to the inner voice. I decided to seek God for help. I decided to trust God for guidance. And in turn, I had 2 little children that were 3 and 6, speaking to me exactly what they needed. And from there, I decided to listen. I decided to tap in and trust the process. The title of my book is I Listened, because that is exactly what I did in 3 specific areas of my life. And as a result, the whole goal of the book and the chapter is to end it with encouraging you to do the same, regardless of where you are in your life. Everyone has something that they're experiencing. Everyone has insecurities. Everyone has experienced trauma. But God is faithful. There is favor. There is obedience. And there's a time to surrender and listen. So, I'm Amiyra King. I thank you for your time. And go buy that book.
We did it! Another and round of applause. We did it. Thank you so much, y'all, for coming out here. So at this part of the program, the authors are going to go take a group shot outside. So just give them a few minutes. We know y'all are anxious to go get your book signed, so give them a few minutes, and then they're going to meet you all back at their tables right there. All right? That sounds good? Okay, and so as I close out again, I just want to thank y'all from the bottom of my heart for sharing your loved ones with me for 12 weeks. Thank you so much for coming out and supporting. We just really appreciate you, and I can't say that enough. If you have any questions about writing your story, I promise you I got the answer. So just come to me while you wait for your family and friends, or Riel. She has all the answers as well. So thank y'all so much. At this point, we are complete until you get your signed autograph copy. Have a great afternoon and weekend.